Hello again, and welcome to Lesson 29's Writing Words and Sentences 2B, where we will be continuing to look at how we write the sound U when we hear it at the end of a word. This lesson is split into 3 parts. We will be looking at words like tissue, statue, and avenue. When you get to the end of the typed version of a short story that you can read with somebody else, you may like to stop the lesson there and go back to that place, ready for the one where we talk about a statue. And you can see we have a Glasgow statue. Pause at the end of that short story or stop it and go back for the last one about an avenue. And we start our first part of the lesson with a smile. Sue's smile. And there we can hear S, oo. S is another sound where we then have to stop and think. We're not writing oo. S has changed the sound we hear. And we will be writing U with a U-E spelling. Capital S for her name, U-E. Sue could be the way we say it to remind ourselves. And we have another word that we regularly write. Tuesday. T-U with a U-E-S, day. Now, Tu was a Germanic god of the sky and war. And that is probably why it always seems such an unusual spelling. But let's take a look at it. We'll look for the vowel places. And in Tuesday we have 3. And then decide, using what we know on our spelling language. U, okay, yep, I'm going to make that an open syllable. E-S, I'm going to say S, and then day, I know it already. 2-S, day. And our next word has 2 syllables. Issue, sometimes said as issue, or is. Sue. Is. S. You. Saying it like that means I have no trouble spelling it. Is. Sue. There, U-E. Which is usually the spelling when a word has more than 1 syllable. And another word with a very similar spelling, tissue. And here we can see a box of them. T-is, sue. And it is very like issue, but it has a T at the beginning. So tissue could be my spelling language for tissue. Our story must have something to do with hands. Okay, let's find out. The title is Sue's Issue. Capital S, U at the end, UE, and an apostrophe S because it's her issue. Issue. Okay, so let's find out what her issue must be. When I went to see Sue on Tuesday, that's the first part of the sentence, so let's write that. When, to remind us of that H, I went to see. Double E. One for each eye. See. Sue. You. On Tuesday and a comma. She had an issue with the glue she was using. Okay. She had an issue. She had an issue with the glue, with the glue, glue. She was using. She was using. You sing. Okay. So in using, we have dropped the E from use to add suffix ing. It was all over her fingers. Okay. It was all over her fingers. And she didn't have a tissue. She didn't, short for did not, so we need that apostrophe. Have tissue. Tissue. But we usually say tissue. New paragraph. I grabbed the loo roll and we got it sorted. I think about grabbed. What will you do at the end of grab? Well done. We've double that B. I grabbed the loo. And loo has that double O we can hear. Roll. And we got it sorted. And we got it sorted. So sort is our starter word, and we've added suffix ed. And that's the end of our story. Just 42 words. Let's read it. Sue's issue. When I went to see Sue on Tuesday, she had an issue with the glue she was using. It was all over her fingers, and she didn't have a tissue. I grabbed the loo roll, and we got it sorted. Brilliant. Now, you can take a note of the time so you know where to come back to for another session at writing our short stories, or you can continue and see what the next one's about. Ooh, now that gets me interested. We have a dog who is rescuing someone, and a horse. And anyone who's been past the Goma will have seen that. Okay, our first word, rescue. Rescue. R-E-S-C-U. So, let's have a go at writing it. Res. And when we get to Q, it's a C we need. U-E. Rescue. Rescue. That is amazing. And the next word, value. And that dog must have been really valued by the person that he was rescuing. Could have been the person she was rescuing too. Let's write it. Value. Val. You. And it's the same spelling for that U sound, the end of a word with more than one syllable. Value. And I think we definitely now need the word statue for our statue, where we can see the Duke of Wellington wearing a traffic cone and his horse Copenhagen. Right. Stat U. Stat U. And here I think we will write the horse's name, one syllable at a time. Co. Oh, that's no problem. O at the end of a syllable is an O. Pen. P-E-N, a closed syllable. No problem with that. Hay. A at the end of a syllable is an A. Copenhagen. G-E-N. Brilliant. Copenhagen. The capital of Denmark, as well as the Duke of Wellington's horse. Let's find out what our story will be about, although I think I may have given you a few clues. The title, True Heroes. Capital T for our title, you. And then we have he, row for hero. And we've added es as a suffix. True heroes. We start with another name, and this time it is Hugh. And it isn't spelled U-E when we get to that vowel sound at the end. This word takes a tip from the I-G-H spelling for I. So, Hugh, capital H, and then the U is U-G-H, was fascinated. Sin with a C at the beginning. Sin. A. Ted. Hugh was fascinated to see dogs being trained to rescue people. To see, an E for each eye. Dogs being trained. AI spelling for the A in train, and we've added suffix ed. To rescue people. Rescue. C-U-E. People. P-O-P-L. It made him think. It made him think about the statue out the statue. And then we have out again. This time it will be at the beginning of the word, not the end. Outside the goma. Outside with an I consonant E spelling at the end. The goma. All written in capitals because it stands for Gallery of Modern Art. The Duke of Wellington, the Duke, Duke, U-K-E, of Wellington, must have really valued Copenhagen, must have real, and then we add suffix ly, valued, and we have dropped the E in value to add suffix ed, Copenhagen, Pen, Hagen, and a full stop. And there he is. And I've put his face there too, so that we can see what he looked like without the cone. True heroes. Hugh was fascinated to see dogs being trained to rescue people. It made him think about the statue outside the goma. The Duke of Wellington must have really valued Copenhagen. And this time we are going to be thinking about more words with UE at the end. We will continue our work. Continue. You. Con, we have a C at the beginning. Tin, and then U again. The end of a word spelled with a U and an E. Continue. And this picture is a reminder of our next word. It is a road, or in this case, it's a wide path, I think, that has trees on either side. And we would call that an avenue. And when we use avenue with that meaning, it doesn't have a capital A. The capital A appears when we are naming a street, like Lincoln Avenue. Here we have an avenue that does have traffic, and we can see it's springtime because of all the blossom. And then with my teeth on my bottom lip, then, U at the end, avenue. And it has that same spelling. So we can really begin to rely upon it for a word that's got more than one syllable. And fairly near the fort in Glasgow, we have avenue. This time we'll give it a capital because it's the name of a road. Avenue. End. Another capital. Road. Road. And it always makes me smile because you wonder if all the trees ended at that point. But it is quite a long road, and it goes past Avenue End Primary School. Now, avenue is written in full here, but on the map they have shortened it. Obviously thought that name took up too much space. Let's take a look at our story. Sue's. So we'll write Sue first and then an apostrophe S. Surprise. Sir with U-R. And you can see it's one of those words where we hear Z at the end, but we write S-E. And the big surprise is that surprise has two S's. That's one way of remembering it. As we continued, let's write that. As we continued, and again we have added suffix ed and we dropped the e at the end of continue to do so. To amble. And an amble is a nice leisurely stroll. To am, just like the word am, and then bool. And what do we add if we have an L blend at the end of a word? Yes, we add an E. Down the avenue. D-ow-o-w spelling. The av-n-u. U-E at the end for you, and a comma. We quietly practiced the song we'd made up. We quietly, quiet with suffix ly at the end. Practiced, T-I-S-E, and then suffix ed after dropping the E from practice. Now, practice can be written two ways. The tip you might like for remembering that S at the end of the word is that practicing is something I do, and the S in something reminds you for that S-E spelling. The song we'd made up. The song we'd, short for we had, so we need that apostrophe, made, and then up is on the next page. But before we go there, we have our reminder. J, oo, for the sounds that change you into oo. But we discovered here that there can be another one. S. So all we have to think about is having two rings, and it's got that suffix S at the end to remind us that sometimes it will be S as well that needs us to write U-E. Let's add up and the last little bit has something to do with music, so I think we will be practicing the words of their song. Give us a clue, Sue, with a comma. Now they're singing it, so that's why there are speech marks. Give us a clue, you, Sue, and a comma. What would you do? Well, the W underneath the G. What or what might help you with the spelling? Would. Oh, unhappy little duckling word. You do. And a question mark. Next line, so underneath again. If out of the blue, if out of the blue, which means it's a surprise, the blue, bull, you, two old friends came too. Two old friends, old fry ends, came to. Came a consonant E, and this too needs a double O. So you can see when we look at this song that we have Sue and blue as one set of words that sound the same, and then we have do and two. Let's read our story. Sue's surprised. As we continued to amble down the avenue, we quietly practiced the song we'd made up. Give us a clue, Sue, what would you do if out of the blue two old friends came to? And I think the picture tells us what she'd do. They'd get a hug. Now again, in this story, I have left out some details. Were they going to a party? Was it a birthday? What was the big surprise? You might like to add those details when you write it or type it. Thank you for joining me and for working so hard.